to the deafening voices of the people that actually matter.
What you should know is that ours are not just mere conversations.
They are accountability personified, live, unfiltered, and in your face.
A live audience of 10.
AYV on Sunday.
Hello and welcome. Please allow us to take you on an everlasting journey of hard-hitting journalism. No spin, no filter, just the truth.
On AYV on Sunday, we ask the questions that many are afraid to ask, and to test the level of sincerity.
All right, good evening and a hearty welcome to the program. Of our country blessed with rainforests, mangrove, wetlands, pristine beaches, and one of West Africa's most celebrated peninsulas, Sierra Leone is confronting an uncomfortable environmental truth. The forests are apparently disappearing, the wetlands are shrinking, and the drains are choking from all directions. Moreover, plastic waste is rapidly becoming one of the most visible symbols of environmental neglect in this country. According to the latest international satellite monitoring data from Global Forest Watch, Sierra Leone has lost roughly 2.3 million hectares of tree cover since 2001, about 41% of its forest cover in totality. And in the same period, the country has lost about 17% of its humid primary forests, some of the most important ecosystems for biodiversity and climate regulations in the country. In 2025 alone, nearly 100,000 hectares of natural forest disappeared, according to the Global Forest Watch again. Now, yet these figures tell only one part of the story. Now, from the devastated hillsides of the Western Area Peninsula to the encroached wetlands of the Aberdeen Creek, from the shrinking green belt around the Takugama Sanctuary to the sand-mined coastline of John Obey, Sierra Leone's natural defenses are under unprecedented pressure. And nowhere are the consequences more visible than in the capital city, Freetown. It now takes only a short period of heavy rainfall for floodwaters mixed with plastic waste and silt to overwhelm communities, block drainages, and threaten lives and livelihoods. The irony to all of this is striking. Sierra Leone is not short of environmental laws. In fact, it's the capital of good laws. There are the Environmental Protection Act, the Forestry Act, and the National Protected Area Authority Act of 2022, which grant sweeping powers to protect biodiversity, regulate conservation areas, and enforce environmental offenses. Yet, in all of these, protected areas continue to be encroached upon. Forest reserves continue to shrink. Wetlands continue to disappear. And plastic waste continue to accumulate across the city and along the coastline. Now, are the institutions tasked with protecting Sierra Leone's environmental heritage failing? Is enforcement too weak and powerful interest on the mining conservation efforts in the country? Or is this simply a reflection of a country struggling to balance development with environmental sustainability? Tonight on AYV on Sunday, we ask, as Sierra Leone loses its forest and plastic take over its landscape, is the country approaching an environmental tipping point? And more importantly, Can the damage still be reversed? You're watching AYV on Sunday.
AYV on Sunday.
Hello and welcome. Please allow us to take you on an everlasting journey of hard-hitting journalism. No spin, no filter, just the truth.
On AYV on Sunday, we ask the questions that many are afraid to ask, and to test the level of sincerity and integrity of the people who have the power to shape our world.
From the bureaucratically minded corridors of power and the seats of the president,
to the deafening voices of the people that actually matter.
what you should know is that ours are not just mere conversations.
They are accountability personified, live, unfiltered, and in your face.
A live audience of 10 persons will also be included in each edition of the program on first come, first included basis.
Hello and welcome. I am Phoebian Sweel.
And I am Victor Jones.
And this is AYV on Sunday.
All right, thank you very much indeed for joining us tonight from wherever you're watching us. I am Victor Jones. Welcome to AYV on Sunday. You're watching us on our local channel 33, our international channel is 399 on DSTV, and you're also listening to us this evening on radio on 101.7 frequency modulation. Tonight I've been joined by Dr. Joseph McCarthy. He's Executive Director, Sierra Leone Urban Research Center. Bala Marasekaran is founder and program director of the Takogama Chimpanzee Sanctuary in Regent. And Dauda Leange Bangura is law enforcement and compliance officer at the National Protected Area Authority. Viewers and listeners are highly encouraged to participate in the program by dropping a comment or two or question on our comment sections on Facebook, at AYV News, on TikTok, AYV News, on YouTube, at AYV News. But just to premise our conversation this evening, to give it a context, I would want you to watch this almost 12 minutes of mini documentary that I put together to observe the World Environment Day of 2026. We shall be back. It takes less than 30 minutes. It takes less than 30 minutes of sustained downpour for Freetown's streets to become a battleground where flood waters, plastic waste, and silt wrestle for control. Well, it seems as though we're having some problems with, playing the video this evening. We'll surely get to playing it later on the program this evening. But in the meantime, let me welcome my guests. Good evening. It's a hearty welcome to all of you to AYV on Sunday. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Well, we have observed World Environment Day, and I know all of you gathered here are environmental enthusiasts in a way. So congratulations to being alive and to continue to, protecting the environment. But I want to start with you, Barrister, from the, National Protected Area Authority. Now, your institution, according to the Act of 2022, gives your institution powers, for the enforcement of arrests, prosecution, and all of that. But at the moment, the country continues to lose forests. Our wetlands are going, our protected area are being massively encroached. Is it a situation of the law has failed, or is it, professionals in these institutions who fail the state?
Thank you very much. It's a brilliant question. The National Protected Area Authority, NPAA, as you are aware, was established by an Act of Parliament in 2012 to manage, conserve, and protect protected areas across Sierra Leone. And at the moment, the National Protected Area Authority is managing a network of 15 protected areas across Sierra Leone. And by reason of geographical arrangements, these 15 network of protected areas are across the 5 regions of Sierra Leone. So what we're doing is to manage exclusively protected areas for their biodiversity. So biodiversity conservation is a principal objective for the creation of the National Protected Area Authority, NPAA. In the past years, since its inception by an Act of Parliament, we've had serious gains, we've had challenges, and in the recent past, since January to date, 2026, we've gained tremendous accolades for and on behalf of forest conservation, particularly so when it comes to law enforcement. Since January to date, today being the 7th day of June 2026, we have not only arrested people, we have not only prosecuted, we have secured 45 convictions in the court of law for violations relating to protected area crimes, i.e. deforestation, charcoal production, camping, traversing within the protected area, and as well as other activities that people undertake, including rekindling fire within the protected area. That is why this particular time around, during the dries, we recorded limited number of fire incidents around the Western Area Peninsula National Park because we were robust, we had patrols, and we were responsive to all the alerts that came up within the Western area, because we worked not only with our game guards, we worked with community stakeholders, we worked with volunteers and community vigilantes who supported us in those fire incidences. So as a movement, I think we are doing a lot. I don't want to premise my judgment based on what has been happening. I want to premise my contributions to this program based on what we are doing currently and the future actions that we intend to employ in ensuring that we tackle the challenges that we face in the management of biodiversity in Sierra Leone.
All right, so Bangura, hold on to that thought. Let's go back to the video I introduced to you earlier. I've just been signaled that it's now ready. Let's watch it. Shall be back. It takes less than 30 minutes of sustained downpour for Freetown's streets to become a battleground where flood waters, plastic waste, and silt wrestle for control.
The Environment Protection Agency is government's principal environmental regulator. And what that means is we are responsible for implementing measures that ultimately reduce environmental harms of all sorts, reduce exposure to such harms. That includes, most importantly, managing development activities in terms of environmental and climate performance.
The reforms are many, but the improvements are far from desiring. There is tormenting quantity of plastic waste decorating the city's landscape. From bridges to the shorelines, plastic is the new decoration.
A range of development corridors in between, and so we have had the Western Area Peninsula seated in between and being sandwiched by all of these different settlements that are evolving. And it's really an unfortunate situation because it is like a bowl of rice sitting in the midst of people who are chopping it from different angles. From the side of Freetown, from the side of Waterloo, from the side of Mambo, from the side of Jue, as the case may be. And so it's really a pathetic situation. We really don't have any particular institution that seems to be really taking the right course of action that we expect, despite a lot of appeals and also a lot of concerns being raised by civil society, by the citizenry as well.
Overlooked but dangerous. It takes a period of 100 years for plastic to degrade. Flooding is no stranger to Freetown, especially in swampy and slum areas.
So they've come from homes, bars, restaurants, and even factories. This is the final resting place of all single-used plastics in Freetown. This is eternity, but there is no repentance beyond the grave. From here, the next step is surely uncertain.
The Kington dumpster, which is the biggest in the western area, is full to the brim. Plastic waste is receiving much more than any other materials here. But what if a solution to this could be the introduction of paper bags?
It is possible. We have considered the possibility of a ban, but then that ban needs to be phased and structured, because you're talking about a business community and consumers that would be significantly affected if the ban is rushed. So you have to be really clear on what polymers, what material types, need to be phased out quickly, because we are not seeking to attack all plastics. What we are seeking to do is to phase out the problematic ones. That's the practice, the best practice globally. But beyond that, we should also be looking at who will be affected by what, who is producing what, who will finance recovery measures, what sort of enforcement measures would work, what sanctions would be ideal. So there are various moving parts that we are seeking to bring together to ensure this is sustainable.
Laws and institutions protecting Sierra Leone's forest reserves, their efficiency are being harshly compromised from within. An unsettling reality that was recently discovered from one of Sierra Leone's most experienced environmental advocates.
There are known cases of even past heads of the NPA giving permits to individuals to endorse their request for access to a portion of land within the protected area. And those permits were taken to the Ministry of Lands. So
Isn't that,
I think,
right corruption?
We are looking into that. We are actually setting up a committee that is supposed to be looking into all of the misdeeds relating to people having access. But as I said, right now, the focus has to be on stopping the bleeding, because we need to stop people encroaching further. You don't have time and resources to dig into the past when there is a fire right now in the present.
World Environment Day. Yeah, Salon make we listen now. Now we land, now we water, now we future. EPA they come with the message. World Environment Day.
This song was produced by the Environment Protection Agency. It is meant to advocate for better environmental health. In the same vein, they refute allegations of ever being responsible for watching over protected areas in Sierra Leone.
That's the exclusive preserve of the National Protected Areas Authority. And if it's a community conserved area, there's a department under the Ministry of Environment with that responsibility. We don't have a stake in that. What we offer, however, is scientific support, technical support. We conduct research on many different subjects relating to that, but we don't have a primary responsibility in managing forest reserves.
A more troubling reality is that much of the forest reserves in the West African nation are under siege from grabbers of all levels of society. Takugama, which houses Sierra Leone's most endangered primates, is one of those reserves that has endured a fatal blow.
Within 3 years, they have ravaged this place. And you want to tell me that we are serious in terms of developing tourism, safeguarding our #1 tourism destination? I mean, this is a joke. Where are the people? Where are the agencies? I mean, fine. If the agencies are there, they are ready to work, where are the resources? If you ask the agencies, they will tell you, well, we don't have the resources. But that's why we have a government. If you establish an agency who is supposed to do law enforcement, make sure they are given the resources to do it. Then you can blame to say if they are not doing it, then you can say they are not committed. So it is a combination of different things. Everybody needs to come. It has to be a concerted effort.
From Takugama, the Aberdeen Creek, which has been completely obliterated, the Western Area Freetown Peninsula Reserve, where the green has been almost completely replaced by buildings, a forest reserve that has become a non-government sanctioned real estate, to the farthest reaches of John Obey, where sand mining has led to high tides and water swallowing the land of the living. The forest is screaming loudly for help.
Our natural habitat is slowly being getting rid of, right in our face. And it's as if nobody has responsibility for managing it. And this has a lot of implications, especially in terms of soil stability. As you rightly know, when there is heavy rain, the stability of the soil is being exceeded. And so we have rainwater penetration, especially the seepage, normally overwhelm the soil, the ability of the soil to cope with it. And so what we normally see is flooding almost everywhere. And this is exacerbated by the fact that we really have poor drainage systems. And also our system of management, especially of waste, is being exceeded, especially by the rate of urbanization of the city. And so it is really an unfortunate situation that when it rains, we always have flash floodings, but we also have incidents of landslide, which occurs often and again. And we have had waste accumulation in many ways contributing to this particular process. Of course, plastic, as you rightly said earlier, has been a critical part of this because the coping capacity of the city authorities, especially in terms of managing waste, is also being exceeded.
So I'm currently standing at the junction of Mile 13 along the Freetown Western Area Peninsula Reserve. And just at my back, there's a spectacle of an attacked, destroyed and subdued forest reserve. And what makes this more troubling is that this is just at the back of the biggest, treatment work for the Guma Valley Water Company in Freetown. Here you would see clearer images of the extent of the destruction behind the Peninsula Dam. It is a ticking time bomb. But as Sierra Leone joins the world to observe another World Environment Day, it must take a deeper look within, in the face of these staggering ecological decays, or risk making life far more difficult for its citizens in a not too distant future.
World Environment Day, make we stand up today for the land, for the sea, for the picking.
Victor Jones, AYV News, Freetown.
Make we stand up today for the land, for the sea, for the picking them where they come behind you.
All right, welcome back. Thank you very much indeed for watching that mini documentary that I put together to observe the World Environment Day for 2026. That particular piece was shot by camera operator Emmanuel Sisse. Welcome back. In case you're just joining us, you're watching AYV on Sunday on the Africa Young Voices, and I am Victor Jones with you this evening. I've been joined by a panel of highly experienced, environmental enthusiasts and a learned, legal scholar on the panel this evening. I'll go back to you. We had begun discussing, but Tommy said something on that piece that before now, the NPAA was even issuing permits to people to build in protected areas. That's what he said. And that was a while ago, actually. It was before we celebrated the Independence Day this year. So I had put together a piece about the status of our environment before the Independence Day. I think even Bala was on that set that day to discuss the issues, and Tommy quite clearly said, as you heard from the video, that the NPA was also giving out permits to people before now to build in protected areas. And he also said that the Ministry of Land was endorsing, these permits, signing them willy-nilly. And he said that investigations had begun into what was happening. How far has that fared?
As you might be aware, Tommy Garnett, popularly so called, is the chairman of the board of directors of the National Protected Area Authority. He has superior knowledge on matters of this nature, and that I'm almost very sure that he has more details to that than I do, so I will refrain from commenting on that. The only thing I know, the authority has a GIS, Geographic Information Systems Department, or a unit that is responsible for ascertaining the positioning of a person's property within or around the protected areas. So in certain cases where people think or they believe that they need to sought the opinion of the National Protected Area Authority, they will come with their title deeds to determine or do an assessment that determines the position of their landed property. That is what they usually send as an opinion to the Ministry of Lands and Country Planning. I am not aware that people have been given permits or previous leaders within the National Protected Area Authority have been issuing permits for people to build or construct houses within the protected area. I am not aware about that, but then I stand to live to learn from that.
So in essence, you have no knowledge? Not people within your office were giving out permits to people to build in these protected areas, including, well, let's say Takugama.
Like I said, recently we adopted actions, government, through the National Protected Area Authority, together with other state functionaries, to demolish houses around Takugama. In fact, these were all indicators to show our commitment to biodiversity conservation, albeit that we still have challenges.
Since you've mentioned, demolishing houses around the Takugama Sanctuary, so the good thing here this evening is that I've spent years reporting on the environment. In fact, recently, before I did this piece, I had visited Takugama Sanctuary. And what I saw was quite a staggering destruction. Now, out of the many houses, more than 10, sprawling in that particular area within the reserve of Takugama, only one was razed to the ground. All the others are still standing there. Why?
Thank you very much for the question. I wasn't part of it. I was not involved, but the institution was part of it. And it was not only the NPAA. But then it was not only the NPAA that was part of it. We had the military, we had the police, we had civil society organizations, we had the communities, all being part of it.
Okay.
We don't have bulldozers, we don't have the machinery to undertake those activities.
Okay.
But then when the activities were undertaken, I had reports in meetings that there were challenges with some of the machines that were used to undertake the demolition exercises. So maybe that could have been a reason for your observation. Yeah.
Dr. McCarthy, let me bring you in. I mean, you're an expert in this area. You've spent your years, you're working on urban planning, protecting the environment and the likes. What is one thing you've observed that hasn't gone right in the last 10 years, let's say, about the environment?
I think, firstly, let me comment on the clip that was shown. I think it really shows a very glaring image, one that is very much worrying about the environment. And coming to my question, I think one thing I've observed is really the lack of possibly enforcement, I would say. Because talking about laws, there are laws. Talking about policies, there are policies. Talking about institutions, there are institutions that have mandates. To the extent that they are really up to the task that is entrusted in them, I think is so much the issue that is questionable here. Our colleague here was talking about not having capacity, especially in terms of enforcement. And sometimes they have to rely on other state agencies. But then, how integrated are some of these arrangements, especially in going forward with issues of enforcement when it comes to it? I think that is a sticking point here. So basically, is it a question of whether the institutions themselves really are very serious when it comes to doing the kind of acts that they are supposed to do, especially when it comes to real implementation? Because we have to move from rhetoric to action. And what is really the gap in between saving the environment and allowing things to continue as they are is so much about this gap between words but also taking action. And when I was coming here, I saw a particular post from WFP, which shows that since 2012, land cover in the Western Area Peninsula to the tune of 9,000 football fields have been lost since 2012. That is very glaring. And our colleague from NPAA was saying that that institution was set up in 2012. 2012 to 2026 is about 14 years. And we have seen that massive failure. And I was really struck when he said that within the period of their existence, they have already prosecuted 48 cases. I mean, does it mean that it's 4 cases per year? That is really glaring to me. I don't know. But I think much as they are doing their bits, but there is a lot more to do. And this does not only go for the NPAA, it goes for the rest of the institutions that are responsible not only for managing the Western Area Peninsula, but also other institutions for environmental management and land management as well.
Barrister, it's only fair that I give you an opportunity to respond. Is it 4 cases per year?
No, it's not 4 cases per year. I was very, very clear. And in my earlier statements, sorry, Doc, I didn't say that we don't have capacity to do the work we are doing.
But Tommy had said that you didn't have the resources. He said this on my program a while ago.
Yeah, Tommy said that. I didn't say that. That's the point I'm making. Tommy said that.
But Tommy is your boss, isn't he?
Yeah, I didn't say that. As a lawyer and as a person, I didn't say that. Tommy said that, and I respect that.
But isn't it true that you don't have the requisite resources? Well, I mean, that you need actually to do this work?
We need to fully actualize our fullest potential based on where we are currently. If we want to be successful as an institution, there is so much to be desired to ensure that we get to that point. That is being honest with you. On the side of...
And that implicitly is confirming that the resources are not much.
Well, they are limited. They are extremely limited. They are limited. I must say that. They are extremely limited. My friend Yabala can tell you that we've worked together for a very long time and we've been supporting each other. Honestly, on the side of the cases, again, I was very clear that between January to today being the 7th day of June 2026, the National Protected Area has not only arrested, we have not only prosecuted, we have convicted 45 citizens for protected area related offenses. This was a figure for January to June 7, 2026. As well, we also have cases under police investigation up until Thursday last week. I was in Kenema following up on investigations on 2 of our protected areas where our game guards and forest rangers arrested people undermining the work of the National Protected Area Authority, carrying out illegal mining within 2 of our national parks. The Gola Rainforest National Park and the Kambu Hills, of course, a forest reserve. I was there. The case is ongoing. On Wednesday, we're expecting the matter to be charged to court, and I'll be there again to ensure that we prosecute them. This is just one of the many examples that I'll give to you that is under police investigation. But our feet are on the pedal at the National Protected Area Authority, particularly so when it comes to law enforcement, because we see it as a fundamental gap. We have analyzed, we have assessed, and we have carved out an approach to ensure that we deal with some of these issues to ensure that we get deterrence and continue to protect and conserve our protected areas.
Before I speak with Oshain Bala in the conversation, I'm just a bit curious to understand exactly. You've mentioned Kambu Hills and the other reserves in the provincial areas. But I'm curious, how many cases have you actually prosecuted for encroachments around Takugama, for example, which is quite glaring in front of our eyes? The destruction there is massive. You should visit there, or perhaps you should request for my drone shot so that you see exactly the extent to this apocalyptic destruction that I'm talking about. If you go down to, the Guma Dam at mile 13, you would see that that's in fact almost a waiting catastrophe, because they are building just at the back of that dam. Peradventure, that thing bursts one day. We are talking about thousands of people who die. How many people have you prosecuted actually from encroaching in these areas? I mean, Takugama now to even the Aberdeen Creek, for example, which is another eyesore. For a lot of people, that place was actually sequestrating carbon from the atmosphere. Now, all of them are gone, replaced by big buildings there.
Okay. Thank you so very much. Thank you for being so curious. And for the Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary and its environs, sometime last year, on a date I will not clearly remember, 2 people were arrested on the intelligence and advice of Border Bala, including the deputy headman of the Charlotte community. He was arrested, he was prosecuted, and he was convicted in court following his activities, particularly the use of power saw around the Takugama vicinity. That in itself is not conclusive. I want to talk about the Mile 13 and its environs. In the last 2 years, we have prosecuted over 14 people, and as I speak currently, the Environmental and Wildlife Crime Unit at the Lumley Police Station is currently investigating 4 people that were arrested for deforestation around the Guma Dam at Mile 13. These are all ongoing actions. We keep undertaking them, we keep ensuring that we enforce the law, and then most importantly, we are seeking compliance. Enforcement in itself is not the ultimate result. We want to ensure that citizens take responsibility and know that there are existing laws, and they have a responsibility as well to comply with those laws. Let me be very honest with you. We have the Sierra Leone Police Force as an example. They work 24 hours round the clock. We still have offenses around the streets of Freetown. Here is what we are doing in the National Protected Area Authority. We have our game guards, but by the categorization of IUCN, we don't even have the requisite number of game guards to marshal and man all of these areas. We need the responsibility, the consciousness, the cooperation of the general public, of the citizens of this country. Because we all know water is not only a social commodity, it's also a political commodity for this country. If there is no water, all of us, if not you, Mr. Jones, will have to leave Freetown and return back to our people up country to say we are not able to live in Freetown because there is no water. So much as we have the cosmic responsibility at the National Protected Area Authority, we also calling on the citizens of this country, the residents of Freetown, call to action that we all have a responsibility to manage these places in a way that will not deprive us, the present generation, and even the future generation, of the ability to water security. So for me, yes, we are doing our best. It's not our bit. We are doing our best at the National Protected Area Authority. I want to give to you an instance. On the day, International Women's Day, we were at work. We went to Botoku, a community where the people are doing a lot of mangrove cutting. We were there, we left a couple of minutes after our departure. We were on our way to our office. We had a call from the Honorable Minister of the Environment and Climate Change that, somewhere around a community called Mede Quarry at Grafton. Activities are ongoing here. I can hear the sound of power saw. Where are you guys? He called the executive director. And the executive director told him, interesting, Mr. Minister, I just came back from my international trip. But then we are in the field with my guys. We will see you in the next 15 minutes. And the minister sent us his GPS location, Google map. We were there in the next 15 minutes. And the minister was surprised. On holiday, you are in the field working. We said, yes, that's what we do. I work Monday to Sunday. In the last 6 months, Monday to Sunday, I work on every day. When our guys go out, at night they will call you or late in the evening, they do arrest. You have to go to the police to support the investigations. We do that, but then we are still having challenges.
What are these challenges?
Logistical challenges, financial challenges in terms of resources. But then we are doing our bits. We are engaging partners. Government is doing its best to ensure that they support the authority. But yet, there are still gaps. So then what we have to do is Sierra Leoneans have to serve the purpose of humanity. The purpose of humanity is we don't only care about the houses we wish to erect, we don't only care about the houses we wish to build and secure for our future generation of our kids. Let us care the neighborhood principle. Let us care for our neighbors. What happens if I have a water well in my house? I can get water because I am capable of doing that. What happens to my neighbor if there is no water from the Guma Dam? What happens? So,
But let me usher you in. I mean, we've just commemorated, the World Environment Day for 2026. Soon we shall be, traveling to, Turkey for the COP31 for this year. A lot of discussions to be held, actually, around the protection of the environment and what have you. But from where you're standing at a disadvantaged point at this moment, what can you say generally about forest protection in Sierra Leone? Be fair, all you can.
I think I'll go back to what Dr. McCarthy said. I think that conviction, commitment is not there from the agencies that are mandated to do this. This is what I've been experiencing, as much as Mr. Dauda from NPA says that we've been working together. But he knows sincerely we have not been working together because we had lots of challenges, because as a conservationist, I need to see action. And when you report something, you want to see that needs to happen. And if even that last year, when you saw that there was some strict enforcement that happened, that didn't happen just like that I reported the matter to National Protected Area Authority. I did that for 100 times and no help came. Finally, I have to go to the president. I have to go and plead with the president, please come and save this place, otherwise this place is going. Because I have worked 32 years, and just like Dauda said, for the last 6 months, he's been working Monday to Sunday. I've been working for 32 years, Monday to Sunday. 32 years, not 6 months. So it pains me to see something like that is going right in front of my eyes. That is why I didn't have no other alternative. I have to go see the president. And president called everybody, including the last head of the National Protected Area Authority and queried him, and I told him that you have failed, and he told him to go and act. And he actually, even if there's a public statement that President made, he took money out of his pocket and gave fuel to the bulldozers. Go and do it. And that's what happened on that day. But sadly, it was good that it happened. But then what happened after that? There's no other action. The same guys have moved away from that place, went across the valley, climbed the hill, back of Boy Society. They're having a field day again. You saw that.
Yeah.
You sent your drone up there. You can see how much they have destroyed in the last, I would say, 1 year alone. It's mind-blowing. We even planted, with the help of UNDP, we planted over 100,000 trees on that axis. And last April, they cleared and burnt 3,000 to 4,000 trees, just there. And I haven't seen any action. By now, there should be action. Those people who did that, this is an environmental crime. These people should be prosecuted. It's not a matter of running after. I'm also interested to know the names of these 45 people they are claiming to. Is it Tom, Dick, and Suri and Ba, who is a coal burner, poor guy who is looking for his day living? Or those guys who are building these mansions? Those are the kind of names we would like to see. These are the ones we were to bring into AYV, or to put the names, put it on the paper, put it on headlines. These are the big people who are encroaching to our national park. This is an environmental crime. I mean, these people should be prosecuted individually, summarily, even, you know, there's no joke about this. And what they are saying is about they have arrested 45 people. Mind you, this happened because there is a new executive director who just came in, and he had to show something, because the last one messed up and he was basically fired, and the new one came in. And the new one came in, he is with a conviction that he could do something. And we all want to support him, because this is what we want to see. We are all, because we don't have the mandate. We depend on these agencies to support us, and we are fully prepared to support. So I think he is trying to prove a point. It can be done. But the problem, what is happening is, he has still inherited an old car. Engine is gone, tires are gone. You put a new driver there. Till they start changing the engine, the tires, and the spares, that car is not moving anywhere. Why I'm saying that, as you rightly said, 9,000 football fields have gone from the time NPA came into inception, right? So it's not about what happened now. It's been going on for a very, very long time. And every time I think we are trying to please the masses, you bring a new ED in, it's still a new driver. We need to see the institution move. We need to see action, right? And this is the problem we had right from the beginning. So this is what we need to really look into. I mean, anyone can come with a new driver, but the car needs to move. And that's what I think needs to be done as an institution. I don't think everyone, there are good people within the institution. There are good people within the institution, but it's also possible there are people probably not patriotic enough to move this nation. So that is my fear, and I hope that the new executive director will be in a position, he will be supported. Then the other thing is, again, there's a contradiction. When Tommy says there are no resources to do the work, then Dauda is telling that he didn't say that. That was he said that. But as a law enforcement officer, he needs to know they are underfunded. I know they are underfunded. I know they can do a better job. I think if we don't talk the truth, we are not going to go anywhere. It's just like going to a doctor. You cannot go and hide your problems. You need to be open up. You need to tell him, this is my sickness. These are my problems. Fix me. That's the thing. I mean, this is only a prescription we can give, but it's up to them to go and buy the medicine. If they don't want to buy the medicine, it will continue. It will be the same thing. So I won't see any changes. So we only wish that the new ED will be able to move this car. He can change some spares and get the car moving. And we're all ready to support.
Definitely, Dauda, you have some questions to answer. But before you do, let me bring in Dr. McCarthy. I mean, do you think this is all happening as a result of, neglect, lack of political will, lack of resources, or maybe insufficient integrity among the people who are charged with the responsibility to do this job? What do you think is the problem?
I think being given a mandate is one thing, but also having clarity of that mandate is also another. So the question is, do they really understand the task that is assigned to them? And even if they understand, within the environment within which they are working, how supportive is it? Because the extent to which they can work, they can function, really depends so much on how supportive they are. But at the same time also, I think, like you rightly said, political will is really top-notch in this particular discussion, because this is not the first time we are discussing something about the environment. The environment has been in discussion for several years, but then we still see the same old situation. It is one thing to say, but it's also another thing of seeing action being done. Over the period, even up to the setting up of the NPAA or even the EPA, because these conversations were what compelled the establishment of these institutions.
Yeah.
But yet, the same thing keeps going on. So we have a lot of challenges, yes, as a city. Urbanization is real, but to what extent are we really opening up to accommodate and to also prepare for this particular kind of trend? Because many other countries have dealt with it. We are not an exception. But at the same time also, I think we have had a tendency of a country to operate sectorally. And it is the case that people don't seem to see that the city has to be seen as a kind of system, an integrated kind of system. Because the issues we are dealing with are very complex. They have implications for various other sectors. Because what we are talking about here today, especially in terms of managing the environment, has a lot to do with land management as well. How efficient are we using the land? And this comes so much in terms of collaboration across institutions, and it's also a question of how the policies, the laws, allow this collaboration to take place. So do we have those particular kinds of concepts, especially of governance of the environment, in ways that really brings together various other actors? And what kind of synergy is being introduced within this kind of system? So I think those are the kind of issues.
You know, just to be the devil's advocate, a while ago, the president had said, you know, in fact, he hasn't been silent at all. He's been saying this over and over again, that the people who are destroying the forests are perhaps by far, you know, the primus of governance, you know, and the political cadre in this country. He had even accused most of his right-hand men, you know, within cabinet, as Bala would know, based on the meeting they last had, that most of these places that are being destroyed are being destroyed by powerful people in society. And he had said they should stop, but they're not listening to the president. It's as if they're not even hearing the president. You sense defiance in all of this.
Well, I think
the direction to have come from the president himself, of the whole country, saying that people should stop, but they're not listening to him.
I think there is some level of political economy that needs to be understood within this conversation. Because, in my view, there is some level of elite capture of the entire situation that is going on. Some people are benefiting. And these could be people right at the top, but also that transcends to the ordinary persons that are normally used as the frontiers, especially in terms of venturing out into these communities, these particular environments, and clearing up the forest. They have a particular kind of structure that is well organized, that is really going ahead with this particular venture, even while the president is saying this. I think it is deeply seated, and there is need for some level of research to be really undertaken to be able to understand who are really the kinds of persons who are really underneath this. Well, just to give you some perspective, I think most of these communities have headmen. They also have development committees, but at the same time also they have strong political elites within these particular places, and even business people who benefits out of this whole thing. Because selling land, and especially land that people can grab at will, I mean, this comes with a lot of opportunities, and it's only
up to you to imagine how much benefits come, especially when you even imagine what a town of lot, a plot of land, how much it costs. And we are talking about some people amassing acres of land from this particular business. So it's, to me, a kind of business. It's a kind of business that is structured in a way that it's operating within the state, but it's really difficult to piece out. And that particular reason calls for an entire a form of research to be able to unravel it.
Now, there's a total cabal, as Dr. McCarthy, and Bala had alluded to, that needs to be scattered. However, help us to understand exactly, because we're trying to figure out exactly who are these people that you've been convicting, in the sense. I mean, is it the basic grassroots charcoal burners in villages who are just finding their living? Or is it the deep-pocketed people that the president had been talking about, who are at the top of the cadre? Who exactly have you been prosecuting?
Thank you very much. We have been prosecuting different range of people who have been found wanting of meddling with our protected areas, particularly so the Western Area Peninsula National Park. However, in a recent engagement at our management within the authority, we have resolved that we have to try to lay our hands on people who you refer to as deep-pocketed to see how we test these issues in courts. We intend to adopt some of these actions in the High Courts of Sierra Leone. We want to go beyond the magisterial jurisdiction that is given to us within the ambit of the law, with special reference to Section 32 of the National Protected Area Authority and Conservation Trust Fund Act of 2022. Albeit that we are aware that it's so expensive to even do the prosecutions we are doing currently is so expensive. It is financially drilling for the institution. And that is where I want to make clarity when Bala initially stated that I was contradicting the statements made earlier by Tommy Garnett, being the board chairman of the board of directors, NPAA. I was talking about capacity in terms of human capacity that we have within the National Protected Area Authority to execute our national mandates. While, of course, I'm also cognizant of the fact that we have logistical and resource challenges as an institution to give us the requisite capacity for efficiency to cover our national mandate. Like I told you, we went to Zimi, Bo, Moyamba, and then subsequently I went to Kenema on Thursday, as I stated earlier. I had to rent a car to go there to do all of that assignment. We have those challenges. But internally, we are not only talking about the presence of an executive director, because his leadership fuels the car. His leadership drives the authority. But we have technical people within the institution who have sacrificed their time, their life, their professions to be where they are and ensure that they push biodiversity conservation. For example, I have been there for ages. I have been there supporting, being a trained and qualified lawyer. I'm also specialized in international environmental law and policy. And I don't do this with a fleeting ambition. I do it because I believe it's a national call. I believe I'm serving humanity. And we believe at the management of the National Protected Area Authority that we have the knack, we have the courage, we have the willingness to push the work we are doing. All we are asking for is continued support for the institution, continued encouragement for what we are doing, because it's an Herculean task. It's enforcement. It's the management of resources that people are desperately going out for. Land acquisition has expanded appetite in Sierra Leone today. People believe, I want to acquire land. I want to build a house. So it's like NPA against the general public. Those who believe they have to go against the laws. So let us encourage the good work of the institution. Let us look at the challenges, proffer solutions or recommendations that will help the authority to overcome the challenges that it has in ensuring that we protect our protected areas in the interest of our citizens, the current generation and the future generation.
You know, we have like 3 or 4 clusters to discuss this, plastic pollution being one. You know, we started with, you know, encroachment in our forest reserves. We'll have to move on to plastic pollution in a jiffy. But before we do, I wanted to ask you about the CITES Convention. It's one of the biggest, you know, international conventions that protect our tree species. You know, and from what I read is that, you know, the NPAA is one institution is charged the mandate to ensure that this particular, you know, convention is implemented locally. How far have you gone with this?
Interesting. The NPA Act of 2012 stated in Section 12 that the National Protected Area Authority is charged with the mandate of executing actions that will lead to compliance in terms of CITES.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, in the amendment to the NPA Act, the act that we currently have, NPA and CTF Act of 2022, that paragraph was deleted, and as I speak, by reason of law, National Protected Area Authority is not responsible for the implementation of the Convention on the International Trade in Endangered Species, CITES.
Wow.
So that is not under the purview of the National Protected Area Authority.
What does this tell you? I mean, as a legal man working for one of the most crucial, you know, MDAs in this country, was this deliberate in any way? Do you sense deliberacy here? Was it deliberately removed so that people will not do the work that needs to be done? Because the CITES is by far one of the biggest. A while ago, I, you know, watched a documentary that was produced by BBC Africa. That was shot by Umaru Fofana. The documentary is called The Trees That Bleed. In that particular documentary, he explained, you know, in a sequential manner, how, you know, trees are being exported to foreign countries like China, for example. Rosewood being one of them. And all of these trees are protected by CITES.
Yes.
So it's such a big deal. For a big deal to be struck out of a law, it means something is hidden deeper that we haven't realized. What happened?
Pterocarpus aeneicius, rosewood,
Yes.
is a valuable species.
Yes.
It is within Sierra Leone, particularly so
Indeed.
in the northern part of Sierra Leone, around the Otama-Kelemi National Park, being the first and the largest national park in Sierra Leone. But then, unfortunately, I don't want to say so much or too much on this issue of the deletion of that paragraph from the law. I wonder what might have happened. I wonder
the questions when that happened.
Well, I asked several questions because I was part of the institution when the review was done. I was maligned. I was misunderstood at a particular point when I raised that issue.
Who maligned you?
Well, people around that we are working
Was
together.
your boss?
They were- Not really. Not really.
I just wanted to understand.
Not really. So we were maligned that the NPA was fighting because NPA wanted to be in charge. But then for us, like you said, being a protected species, an endangered species, we are of the opinion that NPA is responsible for all of these species, and because it's a biodiversity related thing. But then unfortunately there were technical explanations that were given to that decision, and we were left with no option but to succumb to the decision. And we are working with what we have, and we have a lot on our plates to deal with, particularly when it comes to protected areas. And we want to focus our attention to those protected areas that we are managing currently across the country.
You know, I'm just trying to browse through, and I realized that under Section 12, you're still responsible for the implementation of CITES.
So that is...
you said you're not responsible.
That is the law of
Still
2012.
responsible.
That's the law of 2012 you are still referring to, my brother. I'm talking about the NPA Act of 2022. That is NPA Act of 2012 that you are still browsing from online. and I'm talking about the one of 2022, which is the law that is currently subsisting.
So in essence, you're telling us that one of the most expensive, most valuable tree species in Africa, its protection had been struck off from our, law books in Sierra Leone. Particularly because what you do exactly is to protect these trees.
Yes.
These species.
Yes, and it's.
Well, you wanted to come.
Yeah, I think there's something missing here.
Okay.
What Dawda is saying is true,
Okay.
that on the 22 Act, that it was removed from the NPA. But he failed to tell you that it went to another department within the ministry.
Okay.
Because you have Ministry of Environment.
Yeah.
Ministry of Environment is in charge of National Protected Area Authority, EPA, and the forestry. But what I understand, maybe I'm wrong, you're the legal person here, that was passed on to forestry. Initially, it was under the Ministry of Agriculture Forestry. When NPA came in, I think the CITES also went to them. But now I understand that it is still with the forestry again, that the CITES side. Its CITES authority sits under the forestry department.
Ministry of Forestry.
Yes, that's what happened. It's not that it's deleted and gone away. I think the country still has
Responsibility
CITES
has been actually
Exactly.
passed on.
This is what I understand.
Okay.
Can you help us understand?
Yes, thank you so very much. Thank you for the clarity, Bala.
Yes.
But then I'm very clear, and I will say again,
Okay.
you asked that it used to be in the NPA law, and my response was that it was deleted, and I will emphasize that it was deleted from the NPA law.
Why is it now?
It is not in any law in Sierra Leone. I will say that authoritatively. Yes.
Not even with the forestry.
No. The focal person for CITES in Sierra Leone used to be the acting executive director of the National Protected Area Authority.
Okay.
When she moved from the National Protected Area Authority and went back to the Forestry Division of the Ministry of Forestry and Agriculture, it was still there, and government created the Ministry of Environment and Climate Change. The person is now the head or the director of the Forestry Department. She remains the CITES focal person, but the law is not in the forestry law, it is not in the NPA law, and it is not currently in any law books in Sierra Leone. But then the focal person who is leading the implementation of CITES sits at the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, and we respect that decision as an agency or an institution under the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change.
I wonder what packages come with his or her role, as the focal person for implementing CITES in Sierra Leone. I'm not sure whether indeed they actually informed the international community that Sierra Leone has struck that particular sensitive, environmental law off our law books in this country.
Like I rightly stated,
It would be a very big disgrace if that could ever even reach the ears of the international community.
like I
But I
rightly
insist that the law is still there.
No, well, if Bala can show that, it will be fine. I'm just saying,
research around this, actually.
I'm just saying what I know,
Okay.
what is to the best of my knowledge, information, and belief, that the law was struck out from the NPA Act, but then there are discussions that we might see them, those laws, or those portions of CITES law within the Forestry Act that is currently under review. But at the moment, in terms of a legislation, there is no legislation that has got CITES within it. That is the statement, and that is the reality. I stand to be corrected.
Dr. McCarthy,
all what I know is that I run a sanctuary. Right? I just want to talk as a layman. I run a sanctuary, and I have never defaulted when it comes to CITES regulations. So sometimes we have a chimpanzee dying a death. We are mandated as a professional, running sanctuary. We need to take the samples. We need to check what killed. So to send these two samples out of the country, you need to have CITES permits. Otherwise, you'll be really, really flouting the laws, and we'll be struck off. And I know that is why we always go to the Ministry of Environment, and we go to the Director of Forest, so that because she is the signatory for any export permit, so that it can go through the CITES. So as far as I'm concerned, there is a CITES authority and there is a signatory for that. That means the Ministry of Environment has recognized that.
Yes.
That is why we are going there.
Yes.
But For me, it baffles me because I don't know when you say there's nothing like that. For me, as a layman, it exists. That was my point.
So the government has done so well through the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. Government has done the NDF, the non-detriment finding, and LAF, which is an assessment to determine the quota system that Sierra Leone should be given for the exportation of timber, particularly the rosewood, out of Sierra Leone. All of this sits finally within the ministry, but then I'm talking in terms of the provisions in the law. This is where I want to make the clarity. The provisions in the law are not in the NPA Act, and they are not in any act currently. But then the ministry is leading, and then the focal person is within the ministry, and the ministry has undertaken several assessments and engagements to ensure that Sierra Leone is at that level to undertake trade in terms of timber exportation.
But we are still a society signature.
We are a member. We are a member. Sierra Leone is a member.
Now, given that Bala actually touched on this, let me ask this. According to the Sierra Leone Wildlife Conservation Act of 1972,
yes,
chimpanzees are classified as protected animals, and protection of a protected animal without lawful authorization is prohibited under that law. The law was further strengthened through the Wildlife Conservation Act, amended 2022, as we're talking, which introduced tougher penalties, including substantial fines and imprisonment for wildlife-related, offences. For more than 3 decades, Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary has actually rescued over 200 plus chimpanzees. Many of them victims of trafficking, illegal activity, and even bushmeat trade, basically hunting, if you like. I would like to understand exactly, given that Sierra Leone's wildlife laws prohibit the possession and trafficking of protected species, such as, of course, chimpanzees, which were declared pan-troglodyte virus. Can you tell us how many individuals have you arrested or prosecuted under this particular law for, wildlife offences in Sierra Leone?
Before prosecution, you want to ensure that you effect arrest.
Okay.
And before you arrest, you want to build on intelligence. Intelligence gathering is crucial to the process of prosecution. So what we've always done is to work with Bala.
Okay.
We have, my personal self, together with colleagues, we have conducted 2 confiscation, 2 arrests. One in Lokomasama, we are supported by Takugama with a vehicle to go there and effect or confiscate a chimpanzee that we brought over to Takugama. We also did an unsuccessful mission in Konadugu district, Kabala, to also ensure that we arrest a chimpanzee and the person that was keeping the chimpanzee. We have arrested 3 people from the National Protected Area Authority, and we have convicted 2 people for possessing wildlife that are endangered within Sierra Leone in the last 2 years. Yeah.
Let's move over to plastic pollution. Of course, Dr. McCarthy, you're quite knowledgeable in this area. So what I did the other day, when I asked, I actually discussed with, the chair of the EPA, Dr. Osakoi, and he told me that some reforms are on the way. Because I wanted to know what exactly could cure the menace of single-use plastic pollution in Sierra Leone. Given that, as you've heard from the documentary, it's now the new normal and it's now the new decoration of our city. If you go to the beaches, they're there. The coastlines, they are all littered, perfectly painted with plastic. When it rains, of course, our streets are filled with, high piles of plastic debris, Can the introduction of paper bags help in any way to cope this?
I want to believe that with proper sensitization, that will really help to deal with the plastic menace. Of course, this morning when I was going to church and back, I mean, I was really shocked at the level of plastic waste that was really crowded on the streets, going home and going to church and coming back home. And so I think there is so much to do, especially in terms of plastic literacy within the city, but also across the country. And also I think some initial steps that will need to really be taken possibly will be about really working towards minimizing the use of plastic. Because people need to see the essence of its replacement with paper. Mm-hmm. And it's also about possibly getting people to understand that there are proper practices, especially in terms of dealing with plastic, beyond minimizing the use. Maybe the issue of sorting and recycling. I think the issue of sorting and recycling has been treated for several years, but I'm not sure whether it has been really effective. But then it really has a prospect of reducing the presence of it, especially on the streets, but also on the beaches that we see. So minimizing the use, but also ensuring that people are educated to sort the use of it and to also maybe resort to recycling, I think will be good. But there is also this particular dictum of maybe from plastic to energy and all those kind of things. I'm not sure whether the EPA is up to that particular task. But I think in many other countries it has proven to be some initiative that really can be sold out and can also be a way of even making money out of it, business out of it. So I think these are options that the NPA should also think about of implementing. But the idea, of course, Dr. Masakwe articulated very well that yes, the replacement of plastic with paper is really an initial option that really needs to be sold out.
Now, does the NPA deal with plastic anyway? To which scale are you dealing with it?
Not directly,
okay,
because the aspect of plastic and pollution generally falls neatly under the purview of the Environment Protection Agency.
Okay.
But then we are working together. We are not only within the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, our sister institutions, but then we are working like the EC, rightly stated. We are sharing science-based information, training, and we are working together when it comes to the marine protected areas. We are undertaking activities, and in fact, for plastic pollution, I was one of the team that went to negotiate, one of the members of the team that went to negotiate on behalf of the government of Sierra Leone on a non-binding international treaty for plastic pollution across the world. So EPA has got a whole department or a unit that is working on plastic pollution, and we hope to upscale our partnership with them so that we see how NPA can also play a substantial role when it comes to our protected areas, our marine protected areas. Because all of these plastic bags, water bottles, they all feed into our protected areas that are marine, and that it also has effect on the work we are doing. It also has effect on our aquatic species within our marine ecosystems. So it's also a good point that we have to upscale our partnership with EPA on this, but then exclusively EPA is leading on this, and they are doing so much to ensure that they are on top of their game.
I want to bring Balai. Let me ask this, because I don't know actually, you're the expert in this field. But I would like to paint a picture first before asking the question. So across Freetown, there is this increasing proliferation, if you like, of dump sites scattered across. Most of them are unsanctioned actually. They're not government-owned, dump sites, but people have just, took it upon themselves to create these places. They burn dirt every day, right through the day. And that contributes to the carbon in the air. The atmosphere is hot, I was wondering indeed, how does this affect chimpanzees?
I think, thankfully, Takugama is away from the urban setting. So at least that is why we are fighting every day to make sure that patch of forest stands. Otherwise, there's no hope.
Yes.
But this plastic pollution, yes, they are, like what the doctor said, that this morning, anyone driving through the streets of Freetown, everywhere the gutters have brought in the plastics again. But one good news, one little light of hope is that through City Council and World Bank funding, I think now they brought in 2 processing plants and they've been tested and they're going to be commissioned maybe this month or next month. So that will definitely have some impact, but it's going to take some time before. At least they are going to buy plastic off the street from people. I think they are trying to load it in big bags and they take it there. I think they are also working on the collection points and things like that. So that can help. But in terms of pollution, yes, in the absence of government not putting the right infrastructure in place, how to dispose this garbage is going to be a problem, because people will dump. Those who feel it's a dump site near them and they are trying to burn it because there is no law, so they think that they are doing a favor by burning it, but they don't really understand that all that smoke is going back into the atmosphere. So that is the problem. It's a matter of, yes, creating awareness, but how do you tell them not to burn when government is not collecting the garbage in front of their houses? So this is also a problem. So people are really taking matters into their hands. They think sincerely they are doing a good job by burning it. At least they get rid of the thing. But they are unable to go to the next level of pollution into the air and atmosphere. They are not even thinking, because they are at the first level, trying to get the rubbish out of their gate. So that is the problem, I think. Also, without missing, I mean, in terms of what we talked about chimpanzees earlier, that what Dauda said is, yes, it's true, twice NPA was trying to help, but the question again remains, these people were not prosecuted. That is my problem. Whether it is NPA or whether it is forestry or whatever, under the Ministry of Environment, chimpanzee, we have now pushed so hard and the government has accepted it is a national treasure, it is a national animal, and they have upgraded the laws and all that, but yet, I mean, someone running for 32 years, still, after over 200 rescues. And don't forget, Takugama is not Bala's property or an NGO. I am still working under the government, trying to help the government to do their job. I'm complimenting their effort. So if you rescue 200 chimps, it's the duty of the authorities. That is Ministry of Environment, whether it be NPA or forestry or whatever, they need to look into, say, okay, you got this chimp, where did you get this from? Which trafficker, who held this chimp, who killed the group to get this baby chimp? That's not happening. So that is the problem. And in the absence of that, it makes our job even more difficult, because we are continuously going and showing some paper, some flimsy law to say, hey, we're going to lock you up. Then, you know, in a poor circumstances, people will give it up. Some bigger guys will resist. Then you have to go through the nearest police station, this and that. It is happening because we are not prosecuting anyone for breaking the law. That is the problem.
You're watching AYV on Sunday, coming to you from the top of Tower Hill, here in the capital city, Freetown. My name is Victor Jones. Tonight we're discussing the status of our environment, our aquatic, and how we can indeed protect our ecosystem moving forward. We've just come to the end of, this year's commemoration of the World Environment Day, and all of these things we are discussing are actually having an adverse effect on the health, and safety of our environment, which would in turn disturb all of our lives if serious measures are not taken going forward. But Dauda, let's move on to, wetlands, which includes our mangroves. But before we do, I wanted to ask whether indeed if going by the recent development, you mentioned that, that particular, discrepancy, I would say, has been struck off from our law books, the CITES. Is Sierra Leone still a signatory to CITES in any way?
Sierra Leone remains a signatory to CITES, and like I said, it is not in any legislation, but then government, in a way, has promulgated a regulation that speaks to the implementation of CITES, while we're looking forward in a regulation.
Which regulation?
A regulation that has to do with forestry and forest produce.
Can you be, which particular law? Can you be specific? Just help us. Just trying to understand. Except you're speeding, but just help us if you can.
I'm just saying, government, through the Forestry Act of 1988 as amended in 2022 for forest product and forest produce, they have promulgated a regulation that speaks to the implementation of CITES in Sierra Leone. But then we are looking forward to having that in the Forestry Act of 2026, possibly.
So in a sense, you're saying, even though you've mentioned that particular legislation,
yes,
somehow, implicitly,
yes,
it's not as effective as one would hope. And that you would hope that it comes to this,
So the legislation rather than the regulation.
So in a sense, we are signatory.
We are signatory
to CITES, but we cannot implement any.
We can implement CITES in Sierra Leone. We can. Yeah. The only thing,
the law is because it affects not only our tree species but also our wildlife, which is why Bala is quite crucial in this discussion. Taco cover.
Sierra Leone,
because people poach these animals every day.
When
you don't pay attention, but if you go there, people are still hunting these animals.
When Sierra Leone became a member to the CITES Convention, there are hard and fast rules, including the legislation of a CITES law to domesticate in a country. For Sierra Leone, we haven't done that. We were on the verge of legislating a CITES legislation for Sierra Leone when it was deleted from the NPA Act of 2012. So at the moment, we are relying on the regulations put forward by government through the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change. And we are also hoping that in the forestry legislation that would be coming out soon from the House of Parliament, we'll be having a provision in the Forestry Act that caters for the implementation of CITES in Sierra Leone. But by reason of our membership to the CITES Convention, it is explicit that Sierra Leone must legislate a stand-alone legislation for the implementation of CITES in Sierra Leone.
I'm just browsing. I just wanted to, before we move on to wetlands, I just wanted to get clarity on this, if you would. And I'm reading on the objectives, and it says here, without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1, the authority shall have responsibility to oversee, the implementation of CITES, undertaking biodiversity gap analysis, and preparing proposals for the establishment of new national protected areas.
Which legislation is that?
This is 2022, your Amendment Act.
NPA Amendment Act, section what?
It's all the objectives. The objective, I think it's section 12.
Section 12 of the NPA Act of 2022?
12.1 downwards. I think this is 2. 12 subsection 2, yes. Without prejudice, if you read that, go there, maybe you would say. Without prejudice to the generality of subsection 1, the authority shall be responsible to, oversee 1, the implementation of CITES, 2, undertake biodiversity gap analysis, and preparing proposals for the establishment of new national protected areas. Just wanted to confirm. Because we have been having, heated debates about this, whether it had been shoved into another law or not. Let's just understand exactly. If you can read that area, I'm quite sure if this is.
Section 12 of the NPA Act. The objective for which the national protected, the authority is established is to exercise oversight authority over national parks and protected areas designated for conservation purposes so as to protect the fauna and flora in its natural state, promote sustainable land use practices.
Environmental management.
Yes. No, not environmental management.
What?
That is where it ends for section 12.1 of 2022.
Go to 2.
The authority shall supervise and manage the following protected areas, including both terrestrial and wetland ecosystems: the Utama Kilimi National Park, the Gola Rainforest National Park, Loma Mountain National Park, Western Area Peninsula National Park, Cambo Hills Forest Reserve, Kangari Hills Non-Hunting Forest Reserve, Tingi Hills Forest Reserve, Tiwai Island Wildlife Sanctuary, Sierra Leone River Estuary, Shabo River Estuary, Skiasis River Estuary, Lake Somfo Wildlife Sanctuary, Lake Mapi and Lake Mabesi Sanctuary, Mamuta Mayoso Sanctuary, Yori Bay, and other areas designated by the minister.
So in essence, this particular law that I'm reading now is old.
It's old. That is 2012 you are still reading. I stated that earlier. That is old.
Just for the clearance of doubt, generally,
yes.
Why do you think such a crucial law would be removed and replaced with just the places that you're expected to protect? Given that scientists plays a very crucial role in all of this, what you're doing now, it's perhaps the bane of what you're doing.
There are many environmental laws beyond that of the National Protected Area Authority. Other institutions are working on other aspects of the environment, and they also deserve to carry some of these responsibilities for the efficient management of the environment. Maybe that was the judgment, that was the thinking of the authorities then, that that is the best thing to do, to give some of these responsibilities to some other institutions within the sector that we are all working in.
Let's go to Aberdeen.
Yes.
Have you been there recently?
Yes.
When you saw whatever you may have seen, what do you feel in respect to our mangroves?
Lack of compliance by communities, disrespect for the law, and questions have been asked to the National Protected Area Authority. What are we doing to ensure that we continue to conserve the Aberdeen Creek, being a Ramsar site of international importance for Sierra Leone?
Can you even conserve it? It's beyond conservation. It has progressed to an apocalyptic stage of destruction. I'm not sure. It's almost irreversible. Do you think it can be reversed? If the drone footages would show the extent of the damage there, you would see we have building foundations now creeping through the soil like veins on a human body. Everywhere on the creek. All of the greenery are gone. That is not being protected. It's almost being, if you like, to be honest, overlooked.
It is not being overlooked. As I speak, the National Protected Area Authority, we have our game guards deployed there. Who are enforcing the laws.
Are they sleeping or what?
They are not sleeping. In some cases, they are being overpowered. We've got injuries to our game guards for reasons of stopping people to undertake banking, backfilling, construction within the Aberdeen Creek. We've got arrests. We've arrested trucks carrying dirt to backfill portions of the Aberdeen Creek. We have taken people to court. We've done patrols at night, because it will surprise you to know that some of these activities are being done late at night. We have constituted patrol teams that patrol at night to ensure that they stop those illegal activities. Our game guys, like I stated earlier, they've been injured seriously. The other guy almost lost his skull, according to the medical evidence from the medical reports from the medical doctor. Because of what? Because he was stopping people from undertaking construction around the Aberdeen Creek. But then, what have we done in the recent past? In the last 2 months, when the executive director, Sheikh Ahmed Tunis, assumed office, he invited residents of Aberdeen Creek to come to the office to have an engagement and understand the reason for the sporadic depletion of the mangrove around the Aberdeen Creek.
What did they say?
They came in their numbers and they claim title to those portions of land that they believe belong to them. Mangrove
belongs
to them. They deplete the mangrove, they harvest the mangrove, and they say they believe that it belongs to them. 1 week after that, we sent in a patrol team with over 40 game guards to stop all ongoing construction. What happened? They were chased. They were chased up until our office premises at 55 Sir Samuel Lewis Road at Aberdeen. We had to talk to the communities, engage them, explain to them the impact of their actions, the negative and side effects of the things they are doing currently, and for them to understand the scientific and practical effects of their actions. Albeit, they claim that they were given those portions of land by the government of Sierra Leone, and they have titles. 2 weeks after that, the executive director and senior management convened another meeting with them to discuss their title deeds. Unfortunately, most of them came without title deeds, and they were saying these were pronouncements that we are giving to you these portions of land, so you have rights to them. So now we are working with other ministries, departments, and agencies, including the Ministry of Tourism, NDMA, National Disaster Management Agency. We are working with the Tourist Board. We are working with the Ministry of Lands and Housing to ensure that we have a concerted approach to firstly assess, determine the scope of action, demolish, afforest, and reassign, where possible, those portions of land that we believe can still go to responsible citizens of this country, and where possible, we afforest. It's not impossible to conserve the Aberdeen Creek. Okay. It's not impossible. It's not. In our estimation, as a technical institution, we still believe that practical actions can be adopted. We can implore those actions that will get a buy-in even from the communities to ensure that we green some portions of the Aberdeen Creek. It's not an impossibility.
You know, they're even mining sand there now. It's a sand mining ground, people.
We have arrested people
who are mining sand.
12 of them. We took them to court and they were convicted at the Aberdeen Creek.
I wanted to know exactly, before I hear from Dr. Maka, about, we're going to discuss in a jiffy, you know, planning, city planning, decentralization, all of that, since that it sees, you know, specialty. But before we do, how much does the, you know, issuing of permits, you know, land issuance of building and land use permits by the, you know, Lands Commission or Lands Ministry affect your work? Does it in any way? Because, you know, from what I've been hearing around is that while the NPAA is charged with the responsibility of protecting these places, you know, people say that, you know, it is the Ministry of Land that gives permit to people to build. Does it affect you in any way?
We have that as a significant challenge in the work we are doing. So the current executive director has approached the leadership of the Ministry of Lands and Housing to all hands in the last 3 weeks. Okay. Yeah, yes, we've been having meetings with them, and we've been trying to get a clear-cut understanding as to how we move forward in managing our protected areas. Because, like you said, if someone comes up and shows a title deed that has a document from the Ministry of Lands and Country Planning, one would think that it's a legal claim that the person is making. While for us within the National Protected Area Authority, we are of the belief that no one owns a portion of land within a protected area without the tacit approval or permission from the National Protected Area Authority that is charged with the responsibility of managing the protected areas across Sierra Leone. However, like I said, the engagements are ongoing, and we are hopeful that the affable relationship that exists between the leadership of the Ministry of Lands and Country Planning and that of the NPAA will yield positive dividend.
Dr. McCarthy, I mean, we've been discussing this. It's a big problem, you know, although people don't talk about it often. So a while ago, the mayor of the Freedom City Council, Yvonne Akiswaya, Obi, had actually informed me the one big problem that the city is faced with in terms of planning is because it is not the council that gives permits to people to build. They don't plan the city. In fact, as a matter of fact, she informed me that since she came into office, she has been pushing, actually, engaging the Minister of Lands, writing letters, you know, correspondences to the Minister of Lands to see ways how they can share this responsibility, even not totally devolving it to the council. In other countries, it is the Metropolitan Council that actually plans the city. Do you think this is a problem?
It has been a major problem for far too long. And I think most city councils across the country have been really agitating for them to take responsibility for the issuance of permits, but also for the planning of their locally authorized areas, the planning and management of those particular places. And this has been the case because for far too long, there were limited policies and regulations, and even those that existed were very obsolete. And so they did not provide the right form of frameworks that could have guided those forms of implementation. And quite besides, I think the appetite for the Ministry of Lands to have really given up this particular responsibility was very limited. But I think through international funding, especially from the World Bank, I think that particular situation is now being addressed. As recent as 2025, the Land Country Planning Act has been formulated, and it gives a lot of powers now to the local council, especially in terms of not only planning their areas, but also in terms of the issuance of permit. And if that particular act is being translated into action, because I wonder whether that is the case at the moment, because the mayor and many others still continue to complain. If that particular act is being really given the kind of drive that it requires, I think that particular situation will be overcome, because by rights, the local councils which have authority for the development of their localized areas, they generally need to have a kind of special imagination of how they want to drive the development of their localities. And that special imagination takes or should take on board the social, economic, and environmental issues that pertain to those particular places, because there is no way you can drive development without thinking about sustainability and also without thinking about inclusiveness and equity as part of the broader frameworks to guide your decisions. So if the currently produced act is to be really given the powers that it requires, I think those particular issues will become issues of the past. And I'm sure also if it's really giving the kind of drive that it needs, the issue of the Aberdeen Creek will also now be a responsibility that the City Council can take active role within, especially so in terms of working with the NPAA, but also various other organizations. Because one thing that has been missing for quite too long has been really these inter-organizational relationships. How do you really sort out the relationships in ways that can make practical problems be addressed? And for far too long, like I started my comments, I told you that a lot of decisions are being sectoral.
and especially when it comes to policies and regulations, which seems to speak so much to sectoral issues, that integrated kind of thinking becomes missing. And if local councils are given that particular power, that particular mandate to implement the special plans, to also take responsibility, especially in terms of land management rules, I think having all those authorities, those particular actors that have a stake into making decisions, rightful decisions across the social, across the economic, but also across the environment, will really give the real kind of wherewithal that is necessary.
I will now ask a cross-cutting question to all of you, and you will take turns to respond to it as we accelerate towards the end of this program. I'll start with you, Bala. Which of these do you think is the greatest threat to, our environment? Is it politics, poverty, or weak enforcement?
Probably I'll start from being not patriotic.
Okay.
I think some of these actions we are doing is not even going to affect us. We are not even thinking about our children. I mean, really, it's mind-blowing to see some of the destruction they are making. I mean, just look at Takugama. I mean, after they came and destroyed another 4,000 trees there. This World Environment Day, that was 2 days ago, I managed to convince Orange Sierra Leone to go and replant that area again. So we went there to plant another 5,000 trees. Again, not to redraw the line again. You cannot just keep redrawing the line. You cannot keep going backwards. So we said, no, we'll re-establish where you destroyed. But then within this few months, 2 more structures are coming. And they are just about 100 meters from Takuyama Dam. And Takuyama Dam, that supplies water for nearly 200,000-300,000 people going down all the way to Hill Station and going beyond. Now they're putting new lines. What are these authorities doing about it? This is happening right there. Why are we? I mean, we reported the case when they were just brushing. We reported the case when they started putting the foundation. We reported the case when they started putting another few pan bodies around there. Now there is a massive structure there. So what is happening? We don't have the answers. I don't have the mandate to go and break anything. I can only report as an environmentalist, and it's not about chimps. It's about water. Yeah. It is water. It is a water for children. One stupid guy even told me, oh, don't talk about water, me get money, I will come with Bowser. I said, you're not even thinking that it is for the guys who are working for you. Their children cannot bring water by Bowser. So that is the way of thinking. And these kind of people, I mean, this is environmental crime. I mean, we need to really, really take serious about this. If you really want to move as a nation, if you really think that Freetown needs to exist as a capital city, it can only happen by protecting our water.
Okay.
And it is happening. I can challenge the organizations. If you really, really want to follow by action all our talk and commitment, what we are saying, go and look at Takuyama Dam. Within 100 meters, they've started building again. That means what's happening? It's not even destroying the forest. How about all the dirt? People are building cesspits there. All that water table is going to be affected. That water is going to feed into Takuyama Dam, and that is going to, Babadori Reservoir to clean up and send. I mean, come on. This is God-given gift. Why are we waiting to see? We are talking about, Aberdeen Creek. Now, Daura is telling, yes, we can. But why did we leave it to go this level? 14 years of establishment of NPA, right? You've been there for 14 years. Why did we let it go to this level? Now we are talking about maybe we can turn it around. Believe you me, it's very difficult to turn it around. This is a permanent damage, some of these areas. It's so difficult. And I think we've got a culture now, it's like you go in, you encroach into some place. If you are a pan body, quickly build it into a massive structure, put a 3-story building, then nobody will touch it. This is the kind of way we are going. So till we started bringing these ones down, nothing is going to change. Running out after coal burners, I mean, it is so organized, like what you said, Victor, that the guys who are burning the coal, they're not even paid. They're going to destroy the place. The guy who is behind, who is hiring them, is giving them a land to say, okay, destroy everything here, you can burn the coal, then the place is naked, then I'll come with the paper. So what is happening? So I think the answer lies with the government, not with us.
Dr. McCarthy. Who do you think should bear the greatest responsibility for environmental destruction in this country? The state, private developers, or ordinary citizens?
I think already the ordinary citizens bear the greatest challenge, especially as a result of what is happening now. Because if people have to possibly move around, the possibility of being safe to move around, especially and secure moving around, especially when there is flooding, deforestation is taking place, and the risk that it presents, these are all risks that the ordinary person continue to cope with. But especially in terms of taking responsibility to deal with the environmental challenges, I think the government has that particular mandate, firstly, to be able to ensure that everything is put to their proper perspectives.
Right.
But at the same time also, we have to understand that there are a lot of interest underneath all of this. And so this particular interest can be from the side of the government, it can be from the side of the private individual, it can also be from the side of the ordinary person who is residing within this community. Because like Bala said, people are desperate, they don't see the broader picture. Everyone just wants to have things done their own way. And so that selfishness is the major drive. And because of this selfishness, people are always forced to do things in ways that can suit their own circumstances. And so at the end of the day, it's a question of who takes responsibility. And we believe that we are a country of systems, we are a country of rules, we are a country of laws. And so if actions are not taken, then it is so much the government that we always follow.
All right. Bala, before I go to, Nyake for the messages, you are at the front lines of environmental protection in Sierra Leone. If you were given the power, indeed, to change things overnight, of how things can become better, of how you can become more efficient, and how the country's environmental reserves can begin to sprout and flourish again, what one reform would that be?
I would invest in enforcement of the laws.
Okay.
Every action, including afforestation, without enforcement or protection, it will lead to zero outcome. For me, enforcement is crucial, and it does not only lie with the National Protected Area Authority. Our game guards, trained but poorly equipped, they don't carry weapons. And in some of these places where we walk, we see poachers, we see people carrying weapons, but then they still chase them and ensure that they stop them from undertaking illegal activities within our protected areas. So for me, enforcement is expensive, but it's a crucial way to go, particularly when it comes to protecting our protected areas in Sierra Leone.
Right. I'll give it to you, Nyake, to read some of the messages.
Straight into the inbox, of course, online for tonight. D. Chroma says, Tommy Garnett, what is his evidence? Can you provide any tangible evidence? We are ready to take action as an institution. Of course, Tula Omar Momo says, good evening, AYV. Government has to implement more measures to protect the environment, as we can see a lot of disaster occurring in most parts of the city. D. Koroma again says, Takogama is not standing alone, same as Mile 13. They are all part of the Western Area Peninsula National Parks. Why must we single them out? All 45 people he's talking about from the Western Area Peninsula National Park. Tula Omar again says, please, guest of the program, please partner with government and other partners to protect the people who stay at slum communities. The last we can take is from Sheriff. He says, the biggest problem today is deforestation, and nothing much is done by the government to stop it. People often forget that Takogama is not only protecting our national animal, which is the chimpanzee, but helping to protect the forest that safeguard our water sources, which is the Congo Dam. The question now is, how long can we continue destroying our protected areas? Victor Jones.
Thank you so much, Nyake. I'll begin with you, Bala. I mean, we have like 2 minutes to round off. Parting words. including perhaps if you have any, comments on the comments that were sent.
We got to a point, I don't think sensitization, awareness raising is all not working. What is missing, like I think we all agree, that law enforcement that is what is lacking, and I think that needs to speed up, otherwise there is no chance. I think, that's what I think, and I think you really, really seriously, you need to lock these ecocides up, otherwise nothing is going to happen. People need to go behind bars, important big people, that's the way you can educate the small person. Otherwise the talk is, you're running after the small guys, but the bigger guys are still enjoying. So this is the problem.
Dr. McCarthy?
Yeah, I think all I will have to say is that we have done so much of talking over the years.
Yeah.
But I think what people really demand now is action. Because we cannot continue to have the same situation and the same discussion every year without really seeing a kind of transformation. And this comes at a time when population growth is likely to increase, and the pressure is likely to intensify maybe in the next 5, 10, 15 or 20 years. And if we don't take action, I mean, what will become of the Peninsula possibly in the next 10, 15 years?
Charcoal production is not a small thing. The way and the magnitude at which it is being done within the Western Area Peninsula, it's like an industrial thing these guys are doing. In the last 4 months, we seized over 500 bags of charcoal. Where these guys are undertaking these activities, you'll be shocked to see what is happening. We confiscated and we sold them to support our patrols and surveillance across the Western Area Peninsula National Park. But let me tell you something. If there is any way the National Protected Area Authority would continue to deliver on its mandate, we need help, we need support, and that is the only way we'll be able to manage our protected areas. So we are talking to people outside there to support the National Protected Area Authority with resources, logistics, for us to be able to narrow the gaps that exist within the mandate of biodiversity conservation in Sierra Leone.
Just yesterday, when we approached, the Aberdeen roundabout, we were undertaking the Green March, annual march, which was organized by the Environment Protection Agency, and we were confronted by 2 police officers who show their high ranking within the Sierra Leone police. And they confronted the director, the chairman of the Environment Protection Agency, Dr. Masako. They were basically challenging us that we should not pass, along that particular main route in front of Radisson Blu, and that the EPA hadn't followed due process. But just at the back, I read a particular letter that was stamped, dated, 26th, I think, May, by the Sierra Leone police, giving clearance to the EPA to march for the environment. It leaves a very big chasm, doubt as to how serious we are as a people to protecting the environment. But this is where we'll end today's edition of AYB on Sunday. My guests were Dr. Joseph McCarthy. He's Executive Director, Sierra Leone Urban Research Center; Bala Marosekaran, Founder, Program Director of Takugama Chimpanzee Sanctuary. We also had the pleasure of, welcoming Dauda Bangura, who is Law Enforcement and Compliance Officer at NPAA. Thank you very much indeed to my producer, Emmanuel Nyake-Momo, and Ransford McLean, graphic editor, Joshua Steady Bangura, and team, and the entire AYB technical and graphical crew of AYB on Sunday. In case you missed this session, the program will be rebroadcast on Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. on DSTV 399. My name is Victor Jones, and you've been hearing us and watching us from the top of tile on Wesley Street in the heart of Freetown, where our studios are housed. Up next is Primetime News. Good night.